It was early in December in the year 1939 that the British poet W.H. Auden, who had recently moved to America, he decided to go to the movies. And the movie theater he went to was located in the neighborhood of Yorkville, which is just a few blocks from the cathedral on the east side, about East 80th Street to 96th, 3rd Avenue to the East River. And back then, Yorkville was predominantly a German-speaking area. New immigrants from Germany would first move there. And the film Auden saw that day was a German newsreel about the recent conquest of Poland by the Nazis, which the film described as a racial and national triumph. And when images of Polish men and women appeared on the screen, Auden was shocked by what these otherwise normal, seemingly harmless, German immigrants started to do. They started to shout, "Kill the Poles." And when images of Hitler reviewing his troops with the soldiers goose-stepping in front of him came on the screen, the audience burst into fervent applause. But what really shocked Auden that December afternoon was not only how easily ordinary people could get caught up in a murderous rage. What shocked him the most was what he later called the lack of hypocrisy in the film. Every moral value that Auden had been taught growing up was flatly denied, and the film unapologetically worshipped violence and hatred and celebrated might makes right. And that gave the film a kind of unrepentant and brutal honesty, and it turned out that ordinary people loved it. What does the world look like from this brutally honest perspective when we flatly deny our inherited moral and ethical norms and embrace the cold logic of might makes right? In the final verse from today's gospel passage, Elizabeth speaks of Mary as someone who is blessed. And the word is striking because it is different from the one Elizabeth uses just a couple verses before when she says, "Mary is blessed among women, and the fruit of her womb is also blessed." And this word for blessed, which we get the word eulogy, is very straightforward, and it's often used when people want to talk about God and how they bless God. And so it's appropriate that we find this word used in reference to Jesus and to Mary. But in this final verse from today's passage, Elizabeth uses a different word for blessed, a more nuanced word that doesn't necessarily mean happy. It means more that you are accounted righteous before God. And this word is the same one that Luke uses in chapter 6, in the famous Sermon on the Plain, when Jesus describes others who will be blessed. He says, "Blessed are you who are poor, for yours is the kingdom of God. Blessed are you who are hungry now, for you will be filled. Blessed are you who weep now, for you will laugh. Blessed are you when people hate you and when they exclude you, revile you, and defame you on account of the Son of Man." And from a brutally honest perspective, when we strip out all the nuance and we strip out God, these are hardly blessings. It's horrible to be poor. It's terrible to be hungry. It's awful to be hated and excluded. And let's think about what a more brutally honest list might look like. You can never be too rich or too thin. Winning isn't everything. It's the only thing. Nice guys finish last. The strong do what they can, and the weak suffer what they must. And so sitting in that dark movie theater in December 1939, Auden saw pure evil. He saw Nazi Germany utilizing this philosophy of might is right and racial superiority to conquer Europe and to justify that conquest. And he also saw individual German immigrants caught up in their murderous rage, cheering it all on. And confronted with such a powerful image of pure evil, the poet realized something important about himself. He realized that he did not have the resources. he did not have anything strong enough or deep enough or comprehensive enough or absolute enough to confront or even to endure this kind of evil. And in the months after this experience, Auden went through his mind all the different ideologies he had believed as a young man, Marxism. He had been a fervent believer in liberal social democracy and Freudian psychoanalysis, and he found all of these ideologies wanting. None of them could address the seemingly intractable evil he saw in that movie theater, on the screen and in the audience. And he wasn't sure how any of these ideologies could really deal with a brutally honest assertion of raw power as right. And as he later said, I wondered why I reacted as I did to this denial of human value. And that answer, when I came up with it, brought me back to church. And in fact, Auden began attending an Episcopal church, St. Mark's in the Bowery. It still exists, in the East Village. And so for Auden, the answer to that question, what does the world look like from a brutally honest perspective when we flatly deny our inherited moral and ethical norms, that answer was too frightening to accept. And it looked like Nazi Germany conquering Poland and cheering Germans in a movie theater shouting, "Kill the Poles." That was totally unacceptable to him. And so Auden turned to the only thing strong enough to do battle against this great evil: God. But not just God. He turned to the Christian religion that has been his inheritance growing up as a boy in England, going to church on Sunday, receiving the Eucharist regularly, praying in common with other people, asking for forgiveness, forgiving others, loving your neighbor as yourself. It was Christianity in full that he practiced because, as he wrote, either we serve the unconditional or some Hitlerian monster will supply an iron convention to do evil by. And so now, what about you? What about us? If you find that a world stripped of our inherited morality and ethical norms, a brutally honest world of pure power politics, of might makes right, if you find that world to be unacceptable, then do you truly feel you have the resources that go deep enough, that are strong enough, that are comprehensive enough, that are absolute enough to fight this evil or to endure it? Christmas services in church, especially here at the cathedral, they have a tremendous aesthetic power. Our Christmas Eve Mass at 10:30 tomorrow is perhaps my favorite service we do here. This entire place is overflowing. 3,000 people are here. The music is beautiful. The setting is enchanting. And all the carols and the trees and the lights, they also operate through nostalgia. They remind us of our long-lost childhood. And these are all wonderful things. But I would respectfully submit that if this is the only way, the only reason you approach Christmas on an aesthetic or musical or nostalgic level, then you are missing the point. Christmas operates on a historical level, on a cosmic level. Christmas celebrates the miracle of a baby's birth who has given us the resources to do battle with the great evil that has stalked this world since the beginning, an evil which threatens to continually overwhelm the good. Christmas celebrates the miracle that one day this evil will be permanently defeated, and all will be made right. And if that sounds unrealistic or impossible, guess what? It's because it is. As Auden wrote in his poem, Christmas Oratorio, "We who must die demand a miracle. How could the eternal do a temporal act, the infinite become a finite fact? Nothing can save us that is possible. We who must die demand a miracle."